Welcome to this discussion around overemployment. Welcome to my panel, Julia and Anthony. Julia, I think you can explain what overemployment means.
Overemployment is when someone does more than one full-time job. For example, in the fast food industry, someone working a full shift at McDonald's, then, instead of going home, does another shift at Burger King. The purpose is to make more money than one job alone can do, to save for a house, car, or just to survive the increased cost of living.
Or it can be an IT worker who does job A from one computer and job B from another computer during the same hours.
I see. Is this legal?
In nearly all cases, yes, though it may violate your contract with the jobs, so you run the risk of getting fired from one or more jobs. For less skilled jobs, typically paid by the hour, there is probably less risk, but can still be frowned upon.
So as a DevOps engineer in IT, I am currently on $65,000 per year. I have a family, and the bills are just too crazy. My wife was made redundant, so I was thinking of trying to find a much better paid job, but that is easier said than done. I also like my current job and colleagues. Recently, a recruiter called me about a 6-month contract opportunity doing a similar job, but I am scared to take it on.
Well, I have done this for 2 years already. It is not as scary as it may seem. I was scared at first. In fact, I for a few months did a third job.
Before you start, guys, let me just tell you about the legal and financial aspects of this. As I mentioned, most employment contracts will have something like may not undertake other paid work without prior approval from the company. This is firstly to ensure that you do not go and work for a competitor and reveal secrets and such. Most employers also don't like their employees to scoot off somewhere else, but to be wholly dedicated to their job. Legally, at least in the UK and USA, from where I have my HR experience, they can't stop you from taking another job. What they can do is to prohibit you from using any company assets and other resources, such as power and data, for anything not approved. So, never ever use company assets for work at Company B, and vice versa. You also should take great care in separating the two jobs and stay as anonymous as you can.
I totally agree. Always separate the computers and any other tools you may use. This also prevents you from accidentally sending the wrong information. I also keep the jobs totally out of social media, including LinkedIn. This is where most people get caught. That innocent photo from the company barbecue, well, someone may know someone and see it.
Okay, but you worked from home all the time, right? I have to go into the office 2 days a week with my current job. How could I swing that?
Yes, now I work fully from home, but the first 6 months I had the same situation. I was lucky that job number 2 was in a US time zone and remote, so I did most of that job once I got home from my regular job. Being at the office is definitely trickier, but not impossible. The key is to have at least one job with flexibility.
So tell me about your setup. How did you at one time manage 3 jobs?
I set up a bunch of desktops in a rack, one for each job. Then I installed remote desktop software on all 3 and the client version on my main workstation with 2 screens. I could then connect to Workstation. I also have extra screens attached to the workstations too, so I wouldn't miss any pop-up messages on Slack and Teams. If you don't like remote desktop software, use a video switch. Lately, Job 2 has required me to only use their company laptop, so that didn't take remote software. One challenge is meetings and clashes. Avoid meetings as much as possible. If you are double booked or even triple booked, as I was a few unfortunate times, then avoid camera. Find out which meeting wants the most of your input and go with that one as the main. Put the others on headsets and try and listen into them. Mute at all times unless you speak. The only meeting where this is not recommended are 1-to-1 meetings such as those with a manager. Then you will just have to forego the other meetings. You know, I just don't like being on camera even for a single meeting, so I have my camera off by default anyway. Sometimes they do ask me to turn it on, and I do, but just be careful.
Another thing to keep in mind are tax implications. This is especially an issue in a country like the United Kingdom, where the tax burden progressively increases with income. The taxman doesn't care how many jobs you have, but does care about the combined income and will try and tax it.
Is there a risk that either of the employers will find out via the tax system, HMRC?
So they won't be able to find out where you are working or exactly how much you are earning at any other jobs. This information is confidential outside of the government. If you are on pay as you earn, then the employer will be notified that your tax code has changed and that you are earning more money, and therefore they need to deduct more taxes and national insurance from your salary. Tax codes can change for a number of reasons, not just another job. For instance, if you have income from property or other investments. If you are a contractor and do your own salaries, then this won't be any problem. However, most employers probably do not care if the tax code changes as, like I said, many do have investments. Now, for taxes themselves, I'd recommend that your second job is a contract, and preferably one that is outside of IR35. Then you can pay yourself, mostly or wholly, in dividends. And this not only lowers your tax burden, but also avoids affecting your tax code too much. For our US folks, all this is less of a worry. But there, a contract is preferable also. I imagine that in the USA it is similar with the IRS. Information flows one way, to the IRS, but not much flows back to the employers. In the USA, background checks are more common, and such a check could lead to something which reveals the other job, potentially. Also keep in mind that these tax code adjustments are not that smooth, so be prepared to owe taxes to pay, at least the first year. If you're on a low salary, under the tax threshold in the UK, then your second job will probably push you into at least the 10% bracket, but it should still be worthwhile working the extra job.
Thanks, Julia. Yeah, all that is true. Another thing I want to say is that be prepared to have much less free time, at least in the beginning until your efficiency goes up. You will work weekends and maybe evenings too to catch up. I did find that now I am much more efficient with time. I wasted so much time when I only had one job, watching TV, scrolling on the internet, getting into arguments on social media. Now I just work. I did find that I need to sometimes dedicate myself to one job for certain times. So I may have Tuesday more dedicated to job A and Wednesdays more dedicated to job B. If I have a job C, then that is Thursday.
From a moral standpoint, should I feel concerned that I am cheating on my employers?
I felt a bit like that at first. But remember, they only hire you because they have use for you. Once that use is no longer there, they won't wait to make you redundant. Whilst most employers won't like you have another job, there are actually a number of benefits for them too. An employee who is financially stable is a less stressed one and works better. Because you are financially more stable, you are also less likely to leave the job. The skills you develop at one job may well come in handy for the other job. They may well not understand this, so I would still very much keep the jobs a secret and very separate. Remember also to still try and take holidays. Pick a time when you can take a week off all jobs and recharge.
This has been an interesting chat. I made some notes, so to summarize, try and pick at least one contract job. Look for flexibility in the jobs, including working in different time zones if possible. Avoid meetings. Keep social media use to a minimum, and do not call any other attention to yourself. Ensure that you can keep attention to all jobs. Invest in workstations, monitors, remote desktop software, or switches. So yes, it is very possible to multi-job, overemployed. I think you should try and set a goal too, like when you have reached an amount of money. Avoid getting burned out. Take breaks, including holidays.
Thanks both of you. I will take the contract and make the best of it.
This is the first in this channel's work-related programs. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Please remember not to share any personal information. Thank you for watching. This has been a Studio 88 UK production.